Yeah, the emergency management.
Yeah. I'm getting all these, this TIA has a big event in Florida, 23rd through the 25th, and they,
Well, okay, everyone, it is 10:30, and I think we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome those that are here in person, as well as all of those watching via live stream. Today, we would like, our panel is President Myers, Jay Stevens, who's the Vice President for Human Capital Services, Cindy Bontrager, who is Vice President and Chief Operations Officer, and Provost Haber. We'll start kind of like we did at the last open forum. I'll give each of you a few minutes to kind of just give an overview of what your offices have been doing in support of USS staff, and then open it up for questions.
So I'll start us off. The last couple times I've spoken with you, and good morning, I've talked about enrollment management, and I'm going to again today because it's such an important central project for the university that has an impact on all sorts of things, including some of the questions that are so important to our employees at K-State around compensation. Our ability to really do much of what we want to do is limited by where we are with enrollment and the enrollment declines that we've experienced over the last few years, which have such a big impact on our university budget. So what I want to do is give you a progress report on that project. As I'm sure you've all seen, we did a major reorganization of the way that we administer enrollment management at the university, which includes the way in which we recruit students and onboard them, and includes the way in which we support student success. And so a lot of those operations have been moved under the provost office. We've hired a team of leaders in those areas who are professionals in those fields. We're very excited about having the entire team on board. We have a new registrar who's part of that team, as I think you know. So that sort of phase one, we talk about two phases of the reorganization. That phase one, getting the team in place, moving offices into the provost area, and reorganizing the way student life operates, those first phase changes have occurred. Okay, we're now squarely in phase two, and that's going to take several years, where we're really thinking in more detail. What do we have it right? Are we most efficient? Are we most effective? And so our new leaders are considering, the way in which their offices are organized and, thinking about that. And I think we will see some changes. There'll be good changes over the coming years, but it's going to take a little while to get through phase two. Now, we have in place now a whole new structure for financial aid. So how we price ourselves. We've changed some of the pricing in out-of-state markets, for example, to make us more competitive and attract more students to the university. We've changed our scholarship approach. The scholarship approach is a little less focused on the very top of the merit pool, the most high-achieving students. We still have, significant scholarship offerings for those top students, but we've moved more money into the broad middle of that merit pool because, frankly, that's where a lot of students who have a lot of need exist. And so we believe that that's going to have a big impact on attracting more applications and students to K-State. We've made a lot of progress in bringing in a new tool, the CRM, for communicating effectively with prospects from the time they're sophomores in high school on to when they're considering coming to the university and through the onboarding process. It's a tool that actually talks to them in the space that they on a smart device, which is what kids these days want to use. And it's really a slick and effective way for us to reach prospects and students. We've also started work on bringing in more parts of what's called the SSC, the Student Success Collaborative, which is another technological tool for supporting, advising, and student success operations. So that the part that we're bringing in is called Smart Guidance, which is a student-facing part and will give students, again, on their phone, information that's useful to them in terms of progress towards degree and things like that. To make it a lot easier for them to get the advice they need quickly and easily, as well as easily schedule appointments with advisors and things like that through this device. So the bottom line, we are already seeing some really good positive effects from the things that we're doing. So we're really optimistic. Looking across the states, the out-of-state markets where we've changed our price point, we've moved to in some states, we've moved to 150% of in-state tuition, not all the way down to in-state, but still a discount off the roughly 200% of in-state that the out-of-state students have paid. That has yielded great results. We're up over 1,000 applications from those states, and every one of those states is up in applications over last year. We have the largest number of applications at K-State overall that we've had in 6 years. So we are seeing some really good positive signs in this first year. Now remember, it took 6 years or so for us to experience the decline we've had, so we won't expect to get all this back in a year. And in fact, I will tell you, we'll probably be down in overall enrollment again this coming year because, again, students are here for 4 to 6 years, and so it takes time for an increasing freshman class. You have to see several of those in a row before you get the overall increase in enrollment. Okay, because we have smaller classes from previous years that are now sophomores and juniors and seniors, and you also we've done a great job in student success, so we're graduating a lot of kids at a higher rate than we have before, and that's a great thing, but it means that we have to have larger incoming classes to compensate for the students that are completing and leaving. So again, we expect to be down slightly in overall enrollment, but the great news is we expect to be up in the freshman class and in particular in the out-of-state markets. So I see great signs in terms of the specific things we've done having an immediate impact, and these are things that my experience and the experience of Karen Goose, who's the new person that's running enrollment management, believes that these are things that build over time as the market learns what K-State is about, and we do a better job of telling our story.
Thank you. So good morning. I would like to start off with sharing some of our staffing changes. And so I would like to introduce Elliot Young. Elliot is our new Risk and Compliance Officer who just joined us. I think you're into your 3rd week now. And his timing couldn't be more impeccable. Elliot has been very much involved in coordinating around the coronavirus. And there have been some articles in the K-State Today, so hopefully you've had an opportunity to at least keep up with what's happening here at the university. There's also been the Infectious Disease Advisory Committee that's led by Lafine's staff, who over the past month has been meeting to assess and monitor. And Elliot has also engaged we're calling it the Emergency Management Working Group, who just met this week and will be looking at the operations. And if this virus does escalate, we're not there yet, but if it does, we need to be prepared. And so we're going to be looking at updating operation plans. So Elliot will be here for a little bit of time. There may be some questions regarding that, and so he's very good at answering them already. So Thank you, Elliot. Another staffing change that you may be interested in is our Associate VP in Facilities, Ryan Swanson. His last day is Friday, and he's moving on into the University of Nebraska. So for now, I do not intend to start a search to replace that position. I intend for facilities to be co-led with Casey Lauer, who I see is here today, and Diana Hutchinson. Casey is over the operations and Diana is over the campus planning. They will continue with strong collaboration in leading the Division of Facilities. We're going to take some time. We need to look at what we have gotten accomplished over the last 5 to 6 years. Facilities is very important to the university. It's a theme in the strategic plan, K-State 2025. And so we need to take some time and assess and see what we've been able to get accomplished, because there's been a lot. And we also need to look and see where the gaps are, where we still need to focus our efforts. And as the university is doing the refresh of K-State 2025, we need to listen and get input from the university as to where they would like to see facilities moving forward, how we can advance the university. So we're scheduling a town hall meeting with facility staff in a couple weeks, and so please be looking out for that, and we'll be filling in with some more details regarding that transition. In addition to that, I do want to share a couple initiatives that are being coordinated through the Board of Regents. And this is system-wide initiative. They are looking to hire a company to come in, the company's VFA, and they're going to come in and do an assessment of buildings. And we're determining, amongst our 3 campuses, what buildings we're going to be able to looking at. Most likely we'll start with mission critical, those buildings that are supporting our teaching, research, and extension mission. And then assess in that the electrical, the mechanical, the plumbing, looking at the envelope of the building, the finishings. Where are we in life cycles, and what investments, what do we need to do to bring that building up to the level we need to bring it up to? And so we'll get a lot of data from that assessment. And the second initiative they're doing is a space utilization study. And this is a little preliminary. I think there were some, you did interviews yesterday for some vendors who had applied for that, so these aren't finalized yet. But we do expect them to come on campus, and again, system-wide, not just K-State, come on campus and assess how well are we utilizing our space, and then provide some very valuable information for us as we're moving forward. So I did want to share, more information will come out once we get those initiatives finalized through the board. And the final thing I wanted to share with you this morning, if you're interested in e-scooters, there was an article in the Manhattan Mercury, and so we have been interviewing and have selected Zagster as a company who will come, and we're anticipating somewhere in April, mid to late April, where we will have scooters, electronic scooters on our campus and in the city. This is a coordination effort between the City of Manhattan and the university. And so I know this is something that our students, faculty, and staff have been very much interested in as a way to better travel and from one place to the other more efficiently, more effectively. We're going to manage some of the challenges that we've seen happen on other campuses the best that we can, and using geofencing and things like that with the technology that the scooter company comes with. But I did want to share with you that that is something that you'll be seeing on our campuses within the next couple months.
All right, I'm going to try and be quick because I know you all want to ask a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and be quick. So I'm going to continue to be very passionate about healthcare and health insurance because I know that's a big deal for a lot of us. So I've spread that message just about everybody I can spread it to, and I know we have a governor and an insurance commissioner who are very much interested in this, and we ended up with a 6% reduction in premiums this year for the Employee Plus One, Employee Plus Family tiers, which is a really big deal. Insurance in this day and age just doesn't go down. So for it to go down for our employees is a pretty big deal. It's a start. It's not, the end game, but it's a start. So I'll continue to be working behind the scenes to do everything I can to make sure that our health insurance is not only affordable but usable. So I'll be working on that quite a bit. In HCS, some of the other things that we've been involved in, the Supervisory Foundations Program, the Pillar 1 program for that is out. I'm a firm believer that most of how we feel about our workplace has a lot to do with our first level supervisor and how we're treated and how that relationship is. So that's a big push for us. So those of you who are leaders in facilities, other areas, please push your supervisors to attend that program. It's really, really valuable. They're going to learn a lot about how to be a better supervisor. We also have the change management toolkit, as the provost mentioned, with strategic enrollment. There are leadership changes. There are all kinds of things changing on campus, and how do I deal with that? Change management toolkit is available on the HCS website. You can go through that. There's some training. There's other things to help with that. I think it's really important. Another thing we're working on is the Fair Labor Standards Act changes that came out recently. There's a lot of information on our website where we've gone out on a road show and met with all the deans, vice presidents, and leaders to talk to them about kind of how to implement that, and we're working through that. There's been some communication pieces in K-State Today. There's a lot of information on our website about that, so hopefully you all can check that out. The other thing that I did want to briefly mention is we have a policy about an employee suggestion process. And we didn't really know that was there, and then somebody pointed out and said, hey, we've got this process that people used to be involved in. So I've been kind of working with your Senate leadership on sort of how we revive that and what that looks like. So be looking for that, moving forward. And the last thing I would mention is that myself and Cindy, we meet with your Senate leadership monthly, your president and your vice president. So please, if you have concerns and things you want to know about, work with your Senate, work with your leadership, have them bring that to us so we can kind of address those questions throughout the year. So that's my stuff.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'll try to keep this short as well. Good to be with you this morning. The first thing I'd like to talk about is our 2025 strategic plan. That's really guided this university so well in the last 10 years. We've got till 2025. That's the name of it, of course. So we've got 5 more years to do, and so we're in the middle of updating that plan. We went to every unit, every college last fall, so some of you probably heard some of those sessions or participated in those sessions where we talked about a lot of different things. The update is that we're well into the update process of that with a finished product, we hope, by the first quarter of 2021. That's a little different than you heard last fall. We were shooting for this coming fall, but it's going to go over into the new calendar year, 2021, just because of bandwidth, just trying to get all the things done that we need to do to update that plan. The important thing to know is this is a very collaborative, we want it to be a very collaborative effort. And there are survey opportunities. There are lots of ways to communicate as this plan is rolled out. There'll be a draft that'll be rolled out sometime this coming fall. So when that's done, that's your chance to make comments and to have an impact on our plan. You can check the website for the specific ways you can do that, but we want this to be an all-university sort of effort. And again, it's a refresh. We're not completely rewriting 2025, but we are refreshing it, and it's in some major ways, actually. So if you're interested, even if you're not interested, please get interested and help us produce the best way forward for our university. That's going to outline how, where our strategic priorities lie and how we're going to measure progress. The second thing would be just on the Kansas City Star article about white nationalism and so forth, and a student group, potentially alleged student group on this campus. I say alleged because there's a lot of debate about who's really doing what to whom and what they really believe and so forth. Be that as it may, I put something in last Monday, I guess it was this Monday's, this Monday?
Yeah, I think.
I think it was this Monday, K-State Today. That pretty well outlines kind of where we are on that. So, this is a balance of tensions between the right of free expression under the First Amendment, which we all should cherish, and then speech that makes or ideas that make people uncomfortable. So I talk about it in last Monday's K-State Today article. Happy to answer questions today if you have any questions on that particular issue. And the General Counsel, if you want, has a really good PowerPoint presentation on the First Amendment and how we have to deal with that here at Kansas State University, and the things we can do and the things we can't do under that amendment. And that's good stuff to know. And I think there may be some of that on the website too if you look under General Counsel. I'm going to leave it there, and we'll get into questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, you want to ask questions, feel free to come on down. I think we've got some that have already been submitted, so thank you.
The first one has to do with health insurance. Why can't the state of Kansas offer reasonable health insurance premiums for retirees? I'm within a few years of retirement, and the biggest worry is being able to afford health insurance. I know I won't be able to afford the state health insurance, but just don't understand that employees who dedicate 35-plus years to K-State can't retire with a reasonable premium for health insurance. I will have 40 years when I retire, but health insurance is the biggest concern, and I hear this a lot from employees that the cost of health insurance is high. It is really frustrating when you hear of other companies that provide good health insurance premiums to their employees, but K-State does not.
Okay. So, number one, the first thing to understand is that we at K-State do not control the state employee health plan or state health insurance premiums. That is not to say that we necessarily agree with the premiums that are charged, et cetera. So retiree health coverage is a sticky issue no matter where you are, because number one, it's a very expensive population to insure. From an actuarial perspective, when they look at how much they spend on retirees, they spend a lot of money in healthcare, and so those plans are very, very expensive no matter which state you go to. Having been in 4 different states and 4 different higher education systems, they're very, very expensive. I would say that, overall, the health employment plans for the state of Kansas and the ones that K-State gets I've probably said this before, but they're not that much more expensive than our peers overall. If you add the employee and employer contribution together, that cost is pretty similar across just about all of our peers in all the states. The difference is who's paying for it. The state of Kansas and the legislature has made a decision that employees are going to pay more for their insurance than the employer pays. And you can see that in the premiums. We shared the premiums with your Senate leadership over the last 5 years. And if you look at what they've done, the state and the legislature has slowly shifted that burden of cost onto the employees and off of the state for fiscal reasons or whatever other reasons they have. So my encouragement to people would be, everybody in this room hopefully is a voter and hopefully is registered to vote. Hopefully you're talking to your state representatives and your state senators to say, this is a real severe problem. I know the governor's engaged in it. Governor Kelly, I think, is pretty passionate about this. So I would continue to put that pressure on people. And again, from my end, however I can talk to the insurance commissioner or everybody else, I'll continue to do the same thing.
And we talk about that at the Board of Regents meeting. The university presidents are all concerned about this particular issue. So it's something we talk about almost every meeting. Trying to find a way to leverage the state.
Good morning. I have the question that reads, can we please do something about the women's restroom in the basement of Anderson Hall? It always smells strongly and has 1 or more toilets out of order on any given day. Our custodians do the best that they can, but it needs some serious work, and we all can't use the bathroom on the 2nd floor. I think that's basically been resolved, but is there future plans to keep it resolved?
Yeah, so yes, we had some issues in the basement women's restroom in Anderson Hall. The bolts broke that were stabilizing the toilets to the floor while we were waiting on parts to get it repaired. Sewer gas was getting leaking out, and it was very unpleasant. I definitely would agree with that. But since then, yes, it has been resolved. They did get them fixed. I did notice our custodians had put in some deodorizers. If you are okay with that, I thought it smelled much better than it had. And so, this is some of the challenges that most of our buildings, if not all of our buildings, have with aging infrastructure. And if you've been in Anderson for a long time, you'll know that we've had challenges with our sewer lines. And we had to tear up quite a bit of the flooring in the basement to replace sewer lines. We weren't able to do it all. We don't have enough funding to do everything all at once. And so we do our very best in order to mitigate that situation as quickly as we can. And as far as I know, that's what's happened in the restroom. If it does continue, always share through building authorities. So in Anderson, that would be Terra France. Each building has someone to contact to put in work orders and make sure that it communicates out to facilities and their customer service areas if there's challenges that need to be addressed.
This is an issue that we brought up in front of the two committees, the Senate and the House committees in Topeka on higher education, and that is the lack of a good plan to handle deferred maintenance. So when you're on an older campus, KU, K-State, you have a lot of older buildings, and we have hundreds of millions of dollars of deferred maintenance, and we can only attack a tiny fraction of that every year through what the state provides us. That's unacceptable. There's no plan. So over time, our infrastructure will just degrade. And you've seen that if you've been here in length of time, that's what happens. And the Board of Regents is seized with this issue. They almost had a plan that was going to be taken to the legislature this year to be approved. At the last minute, they decided not to do that. But I would expect next year they'll attack that again. And then that's going to help us with these kind of issues where we are, we pretty much got our finger in the dike. That's the kind of money we have. We can fix the things that are leaking, smelly, not functional, most things, not all things. Some things we'll defer because we just don't have the money to do that. There's a special pot of money to do that. It's just not large enough for a university that's as large as ours. KU has the same problem. All the universities to some degree have this problem, but clearly the two biggest, the two oldest have the problem, the biggest problem.
It's a two-part question. What steps have been taken to ensure the protection of the staff against COVID-19 coronavirus? And two, if we have to be quarantined for whatever reason, aren't the staff at a disadvantage due to the fact that everyone on campus gets one sick leave per day, per pay period, and we don't even get one per month of sick leave, 1 day per month?
Okay, you're going to have to start
try to
read
read
the
it
first
again.
part.
The second part,
It has
we
something to
would-
do with the court.
So
I don't
this-
know, Elliot's here.
Let me try the second part again. If we have to be quarantined, aren't the staff at a disadvantage due to the fact that everyone on campus gets one sick leave day per period, and we don't even get 1 day per month of sick leave?
Okay, I don't think there's a difference between our staff as far as the sick leave that's accumulated, if that's the question. We all get 3.7 hours
Sick
per
leave
pay
accrues at the
period.
same rate for everybody.
Now, there are efforts in place if we do need to do quarantines and things like that, but I wasn't sure that was really the question that was there, right?
Yeah, so part of it too is that, I mean, we're working with Elliot right now to talk about what we do as a university. I mean, we're looking out, at our own operations and what other universities are doing right now in terms of, and there are certain places where they're being hit a little harder, places like Washington State where they're a little more sort of at the epicenter of the crisis. But we're going through those planning stages right now. We have a large group of people from all over campus, including Lafine and others who are kind of advising us on the issue and determining what plans we want to make. And if we get to a point where we're going to have to start quarantining or doing things like that, we'll work with campus and communicate what that looks like. I think the number one concern will be taking care of people. I don't think there's going to be any situation where we're going to say, gee, you're going to be quarantined, so let's disadvantage you and let's do something that's, that's terrible to you on top of the fact that you're being quarantined. So I think we're going to have some guiding principles in that process that will lead us to take care of people. If heaven forbid that happens, but if it does, we're working on a plan, and it's not going to be something that's going to be disadvantaging people. Do you want to say anything about that, Elliot?
I'll only just add that we do have an emergency management working group that has been meeting regularly to talk about these plans, figure out the resources, where do we house folks if we have to quarantine, that type of thing. That group's meeting again in 2 minutes to continue these conversations. And part of that is we will have a website that will become available. DCM is managing that website that will provide updated information as quickly as we can possibly get it out.
Thank you.
I'd also like to just take a moment too that it kind of in light of the budget situation, and we know pay raises are not going to be on a regular basis. If you have any suggestions, ideas that we could bring forward to the administration to kind of help make work life easier, a little bit more enjoyable, please bring those forward or even share them today. But you can always send them to us on our website or email through the Senate website, and we can definitely get those moved forward. I'm sure everybody's out there got some good ideas, low-cost ideas that we could sure bring forward to make campus a little bit more fun and enjoyable to work. Thank you.
As more USS staff are either being replaced or switched to unclassified professional staff, would it be possible for HCS to provide a fact sheet outlining all of the differences between USS and unclassified professional term appointments and unclassified professional staff regular appointments, highlighting the pay structure, the benefits, grievance processes, et cetera, so that employees have full knowledge of what they're accepting?
Yeah, so we've started on a pretty good sheet like that. I know we did some work with employee relations when Gina was here before. We've been working with a variety of departments in HCS. Do you remember did we share a draft of that with you, Sam?
Yeah, I think we have a draft.
Okay, so we've got a draft of that that's pretty good right now, and I think there's a few things that you just mentioned that may be kind of added to that. So yeah, we'd be happy to work with your leadership to make sure that we get something put together and provide an idea what the differences are there. So sure.
This one affects myself, actually. With the new FLSA implementation, there are some USS staff immediately being told by their department head that they will no longer be paid for overtime even though their job has not been reviewed to determine eligibility. Can you elaborate on what is being looked at to determine if one will become exempt or if it will be based primarily on income?
Sure, no. So there's a couple of components to, well, not a couple, there's several components to making a determination under the Fair Labor Standards Act as to whether somebody is exempt from overtime, in other words, they don't earn overtime, or non-exempt, where they earn overtime. So one is the salary. So you have to meet the salary threshold, and we're adopting the Department of Labor's salary threshold effective with the fiscal year on June 14th, which is the first day of the fiscal year. So that's $35,000 and some change. So on top of that, you have to meet a duties test. So there's a duties test that you run through the Department of Labor. This is, you have to be doing these things, and it doesn't matter what we call you. You can call somebody whatever you want. You can call them the czar of Forum Hall, whatever you want to call them. It matters what they're doing. What are their duties? And so we run them through a duties test to determine whether or not the duties they have make them eligible or to be considered exempt from overtime. So it's a robust test. Our compensation organizational effectiveness people will look at that. So if somebody is telling you, oh, I already know you're not going to earn overtime anymore, whatever it is, that's not the official word on this. That kind of communication is not going to happen with employees until May. So we have an entire timeline laid out as far as what we're doing with the Fair Labor Standards Act. A lot of this information is available on our website. Again, I'd encourage you to go and look at that to sort of separate myth from legend and fact. So, but we'll communicate. We'll work with the departments to communicate directly to employees what the real story is, as opposed to what other people may be saying.
This is actually a suggestion. I have a suggestion, a small health benefit suggestion that may or may not be able to be implemented for all employees. Yeah. My suggestion would be to have a walk-in station at Lafayette Health Center that employees could walk in over lunch hour or during the day to get their blood pressure taken and weighed in. I know a lot of people walk over their lunch hour, and if once a week or so they could actually stop to self-weigh and get their blood pressure taken to a machine similar to like what you have at Dillon's. That would be something that would promote health and encourage people to walk more. And if not at Lafayette, another location on campus would also work well. All self-taken so that there's no employees that need to come over and help you weigh in or get your blood pressure taken. And if it could also be placed near a water refill fountain so that they could get cold water to continue on afterwards. If there is already a place like this on campus, then promoting it to all employees would be ideal and timely since the weather is hopefully turning warmer.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to talk to Jim Parker at Lafine and bring that up to him.
I think that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know, I know we have it in the rec has it, the rec center, but I don't know other places. But we should. Good suggestion.
There have been many new incentives or benefits added, that are geared for younger or new employees. What is being done to retain or benefit older or long-term employees?
Boy, without specifics on what those are, without specifics necessarily on what those are, I think that we have an interest in retaining all of our employees. I think that, one of the difficulties that we have, and, again, going back to strategic enrollment, is our ability to really effectively give salary increases that make a big, significant difference for people. And I think that's something that we want to do. And when people ask me, what are you guys doing about wages? My answer is the same, strategic enrollment. We as a university, if we don't do something about enrollment, not only to get it up, but to stabilize it, it's very, very difficult to make meaningful progress with wages. And I think from an overall benefits perspective, we try to do the best we can to retain everybody, because it's in our interest to have everybody here, young, old, in between, mid-career. We want everybody to be here and contributing. So,
Yeah, every 100 students means more than $1 million on the revenue side of our budget. So if you think about that, this is, when you think about losing several thousand students over the last few years, and think about what that impact has been and how transformative it'll be for us when we get those numbers back up.
The survey done by the Docking Institute was great to see. Looking at the results online, it was clear that most of the common issue was the low pay in the facilities area and the lack of financial incentives in the form of cost of living and longevity raises. For years, the response has always been that the funds are just not available. If the price of electricity or fuel goes up, we know you have to find a way to pay it. The cost of our labor should be no different. Is there relief for those of us at the bottom of the pay spectrum, or do we have to settle for verbal praise and thank yous because those are kind of hard to cash at the bank?
yep. I can't necessarily disagree with you. I mean, the pressure on wages is real. The cost of living is real. We just recently did some things, particularly with the trades, to try and address some of those issues. So there's been some pretty good progress in terms of some of the trades as far as the wages and things. So we've worked pretty hard at doing that, and part of that's just the reality of competition from other places that strain the workforce. We're very mindful of, again, we're very mindful of the salary levels, and the way we solve that and the way we come up with that money is through better enrollment. Yeah. And the state is just not at the point where, and those of you who meet with the legislature regularly can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not at the point where they're going to drop a bucket of money on our head tomorrow. It's probably not likely to happen. So the way we're going to get ourselves out of that is through better and more stable enrollment.
I guess I would just add a little bit too. We have some responsibility to make sure what we're doing is as efficient and as effective as we possibly can. And, utilities was brought up. We've done a lot of work to look at being more efficient with how we are utilizing our utilities. And we have reduced cost in that area. Now, we made some investments in order to get that with the expansion of chill water and things like that, but those investments are now paying back. And we need to continue looking at that, because we just can no longer look to the state. Those of us who've been around a long time, we relied on the state to provide those salaries every year. And they did up until about 2009. That has gone. That's not, so now we're dependent on enrollment. Enrollment is now where our students, but we also need to hold some accountability for ourselves and look at around what can we stop doing, what can we do more efficiently, and then try to invest back into ourselves.
When we talk about suggestions for something that could help employees, we talk about enrollment management needing to be taken care of in order to take care of our fiscal challenges right now. But from the employee standpoint, we're being told that enrollment management is everybody's problem, but we don't necessarily have a finite amount of students or anything that we're working for. So we were up to about 24,000 students, right? We're down to about 21, right? Right? Okay, so if we get $1 million for 100 students, maybe including some incentive in that when we get to 23,000 students, that every employee gets a $250 bonus or something like that. I know raises are hard because then that's a continual investment that you have to make. And enrollment management right now it's an unknown for us, but having some incentive built into it, as we're saying that it's everybody's problem and we're all working for a solution, may be helpful and really get staff energized to be working towards it with you guys. If we knew that there was actually something that we were going to get back from it. We keep hearing that salaries are tied to it, but we know buildings are in decay. We know that there's other priorities as well. So maybe just having a, for lack of a better word, a prize at the end, an incentive, a true tangible spot that if we get to this place, we're going to give you this would be helpful for staff and kind of be something nice that we're all working for together. So
I want to thank you. That's a really creative idea, and I like it a lot. Thank you. So we will talk about it in our groups and hopefully have a communication about that. Something we've talked about that hasn't risen to the level of a solid commitment that we would be willing to communicate, but I think could, is after we've received a certain amount of restoration, as you're saying, that we would then create a compensation pot of money that would be distributed in several ways. There'd be a merit pool in there. There would also be compensation for staff in particular ways that are trying to address under market and those sorts of things that we can maybe do a better job on when we get to the point where we have a few more. So thank you for that idea. Yeah. Terrific.
Yeah, it's a good idea. When I worked at a gold mine, we used to have a pour bonus. When you mine so many ounces of gold, they would pour gold, and then you'd get a bonus. So maybe that's a good idea.
We need a gold mine on this campus.
We're still looking for a money tree, too, by the way.
Maybe you ought to go look for one.
Yeah, do that. Prospect.
2 short questions. Why do the safety guy and band leader get to park where they want, taking up service spaces? And 2, what's the policy on chalking sidewalks with political rhetoric? Graffiti is not a First Amendment right.
Ooh, that's a good one. We just learned about that this morning. So as far as chalking on a sidewalk, so there are certain rules about doing that. Now, we are a public campus, so we learned very well this morning from General Counsel's office. As a public university, we are the government, and the government can't
Pick and choose what's
pick and
written on
choose
it.
free speech
Censor.
and
Censor
censor.
speech.
So if you do chalk on the sidewalk, you can chalk political messages on the sidewalk as long as it's not permanent.
Make sure it's washable.
Yeah, it has to be washable. It can't be permanent. So that's kind of the rule on that. And the first,
I
remind me of
apologize,
the first
I
question.
missed the
Yeah,
first part.
Can you maybe read the first part again? I heard the second.
Sure. It just says, why do the safety guy and band leader get to park where they want, taking up service spaces?
Safety guy and
The band leader?
band leader?
Yeah, take up service spaces.
Well, we'll have to check with parking. I'm not sure about that.
And we do. So parking does issue a limited number of service permits for folks who have to travel around campus and do other work. So I know that, I'll say in our office, we have a service permit that we use if we have to come down to campus for a sudden meeting or something and you have to find a parking spot in a hurry. We have one, so. I know those are issued to offices, so.
What are each of you excited about that you expect to be accomplished within a year? And will we see parking lot items placed into action?
Wow,
Good question.
that's a good question.
Well, so I'll give one, and it's again related to enrollment management. Sorry, but it is so central, and that's the CRM, which I think that's our way of communicating with prospects. I think that's going to be, and that will be fully implemented within the next year. We're sort of partway there, but it's not fully implemented. When it's fully implemented and we're able to talk to students where they are, talk to prospects and families more effectively, that's going to be huge. We're already seeing, as I said, some returns on some of the things we've done, but just getting our message and our K-State story out there more effectively is going to make a huge difference on applications. I want to see that, we call it the funnel, that's the number of applications at the top. I want to see that double. I'm not promising it's going to happen. It won't happen in a year, but I want to see that, I want to see us getting 15,000, 16,000 applications a year at K-State, and that's absolutely doable for us.
And much more like our peers. That's what we learned from the consultant, that we had a very narrow funnel, and mainly around Kansas high school graduates. And as that number of graduates wanting to go on to college started to go down, that funnel got pretty narrow. And for a university of our size, it was just not acceptable. So we're trying to enlarge it. It is starting to enlarge. And again, a lot of that's not just in-state, but out-of-state too, which is one of our strategies.
I guess I'm really excited about opportunities within Division of Facilities. That is one of the areas that I took on very personally when I came into this position 7 years ago. And not only is the goal to be more effective and helpful to campus, but I also want to make sure that we're doing what we can for the employees and that they feel empowered and enjoy coming to work. I know that we can't do that for everyone, but just continue to make progress in that area. And what we're able to accomplish for this university, I think, can be so impactful. And so that's where I'm excited for that project.
Yeah. So number one, I'm excited about what we do. I continue to be excited about working at a university. That's why I've worked at a university as long as I have. I love what we do. I love being here. It's a great place. And I love the people I get to work with every day. I'm excited about working with them, with the people who work in HCS and the people that work all over the university. There's so many amazing people who have great things to do. As far as what we're working on, a lot of what we're doing in HCS is tied to federal regulation that jumps on you every now and then, which is right now the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is sucking up an inordinate amount of our time, but we have to get it right and we have to do it well. So we're working on that, and hopefully when that slows down, we'll be able to pick back up with a competency model project that we've been working on, that we've kind of had to put on the back burner a little bit as we've dealt with these other things, the staffing levels we have. Much like a lot of you, we have to make decisions all the time about what can we realistically do? What is it that, based on everything we have to do, how can we decide what we have to do and what we have to drop off? And that's an interesting process, but it can be exciting at the same time as you give yourself a little bit of grace to do what you can do and not worry about the things you can't do. So
I'm going to go back to what I first started talking about, and that's our strategic vision, which is 2025. For the last 10 years, that's helped guide this university in so many ways. One is philanthropy. So we've raised record amounts of philanthropy for this university in the last 10 years. And I think you can attribute that directly to having a plan, knowing where we're going and measuring how we're doing. And having a plan and measuring things, even when state budgets were going down a lot, we still made progress. Sort of amazing. Some of that progress was enabled by philanthropy. So I'm looking forward to getting this refreshed plan that will guide us to 2025 so we can continue this journey. And that'll enable us to make progress on all the things we've talked about today, despite maybe not having as much state funding as we need and so forth. I think it's crucial to our ability to continue to compete in the higher ed world that we live in.
There are some crosswalks that are no longer visible to drivers and pedestrians around campus. Is there a plan to fix that?
Okay, there's some crosswalks that.
That are no longer visible.
Oh,
Faded,
okay.
faded crosswalks.
Faded crosswalks. Okay, so I know that came up pretty recent on Claflin by Dyke Street. I think that one got addressed. So winter is kind of tough on those type of things, so we'll talk. I don't, Casey, anyone have, I see you guys are here, anything planned in the near future to refresh paintings and stuff on crosswalks? Not that students necessarily use them on campus, but.
Yeah, like a lot of things, we'll review that along with, chip sidewalks for snow removal is another good example.
Yeah.
Because those become trip hazards, and things like that. So yeah, after the winter's over, we typically refresh a lot of those type of projects.
Since Cat's Cupboard has opened to faculty and staff, do we have any idea of how many staff visits have occurred?
We do.
Yes.
Sarah Barrett has that information. Unfortunately, I do not have that available to me now, but that is something that I could get to Senate leadership and make sure that we get that shared out. So
Yes.
I know that is something that they track.
The numbers that I saw were remarkable, actually, so, yeah, getting used, which is what the whole idea is, so, more than one would think.
What are the plans for moving offices out of Edwards Hall? It has severe mold and mildew in the flooded basements and is considered a sick building. Other than Jay, have you all spent time there?
I spent a little bit of time.
Is that question from Chief Grice? So we have plans. We have plans. Everybody knows that, and at least I spent time there. It's deplorable conditions. We're looking at some plans right now that might be able to, within a year or so, get us to the point where we can move out of there. But there's several dominoes that have to fall, and that is being worked on as we speak. We're gonna try to do it. That's one of my priorities, is to tear that sucker down. So
Yeah, you heard it. And so
I'll get my bulldozer license and be the first one there.
Same here. I'm happy to do that.
Hey,
I'll miss the bathtub in my office, though.
So I will go ahead and share, because I think we can do this now. Facilities is working on a project with the power plant and the updates we've done with electrical and chill. We've been able to remove some of the equipment and things that's in there. And so planning and operations have developed a plan so that there will be not all, but quite a bit of facilities moving into the power plant sometime within the fall. That could be up to December when the fall is. And then that will create opportunity. And so we will be looking at what makes sense to put into that space and what we can fit in. But from my perspective, we have to figure out all of Edwards. We can't leave anyone behind. And so that is part of the challenge, is finding space that's going to work for HCS, campus police, environmental health and safety. And then once that building gets vacated, whatever we have to do to bring it down. Because I've already heard things, well, when you vacate that, we want to move in. No.
No, you don't.
No.
No, you don't.
So we are making plans, but it's important that we are able to find space for everyone in that building.
And this is a suggestion for the global campus fees. On the topic of salary, it feels like the only way to get a raise is to secure a promotion. In order to secure a promotion, you need to show growth initiative for full-time employees who are furthering their education. It can be difficult to attend on-campus courses, but even with employee tuition assistance, global campus courses cost approximately $446 per 3-credit-hour course out of pocket. Is there anything that we can do to lower these costs for full-time employees who are continuing their education?
So we are, as part of one of the 2025 initiatives, the Innovation in Education Initiative, we've been taking a very close look at Global Campus and in general, not just Global Campus, the way that we offer online courses at K-State, because there are courses that are offered not at Global Campus. And I don't have anything to report from that yet, but that planning group just recently completed, they have drafts of a report And so soon, we should have some ideas coming out about that. I know part of what these groups talked about was the pricing and, the way in which are we appropriately priced for global campus courses? Again, I don't have an answer for you right now, but it is something that this planning group looked at, and we should know soon, whether we're going to make any changes to that. I will say, our global approach is incredibly complicated in terms of the pricing, and it's not like the way most universities do it. So you'll typically have a number of stacked fees on top of tuition associated with a global campus course. And so there's the issue of the price, and then there's also the issue of, can you figure out the price? And so we have both of those things that we're grappling with.
I have a question, though, to kind of piggyback off of that. Where it talked about promotion with the vacant positions, USS positions, as they become vacant, are being filled at the unclassified professional on a term contract. So a current USS employee that wants to promote into another position would then lose a benefit of the tuition assistance that they would already have in their previous position. So therefore, you're kind of limiting any upward movement for the USS employees by losing that benefit. So is there any way of looking at giving the spouse-dependent tuition to the term contract employees?
So there, some discussions, as you know, have been going on about that, and I don't have an answer for you yet. But I've been talking with the leadership of several, the faculty senate, staff senate, about this issue, and we're trying to figure out exactly how much it would cost and what the ramifications are of offering that benefit to really all of our staff.
Thank you.
We were told that the enrollment strategy would include reviews by the Huron Group. The registrar office is here, and that office has been reviewed. Are more offices being analyzed to see how we can reimagine K-State and departments set up by the Huron Group? It seems more changes are needed, and I'm interested in the plan.
Interesting. So our contract with Huron is over now. So there was a sort of a very small additional piece. They helped us with the education and innovation, but that wasn't really part of the original contract. So the original contract is finished with Huron. But we've brought in real experts. I don't know if you've had a chance to talk or heard Karen Goose talk or heard, Kelly Brundage, our new registrar, talk, or heard Jeannie Brown-Leonard, our new vice provost for student success. But these folks have a lot of great ideas. And they're early, so they're out talking to you and lots of other people in their areas to collect ideas. So yes, there will be additional changes and reorganizations, as I was talking about that phase 2 that'll go on for several years as we really try to get the best organizational structure to support enrollment management, student success, registrar functions. That'll be ongoing, but no longer guided by Huron.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I'd take a couple of seconds, though, and Jay had alluded to the Employee Suggestion Program in a conversation that I had with President Myers, and we had that program when we were actually classified employees. That, I believe, was a state statute and came in from the state. It was administered then by Human Capital Services. Since we are now university support staff, President Myers kind of jumped on that and gave us the go-ahead and highly encouraged us to go ahead and try to revitalize that program. So I have worked with Tanya Gonzalez, the Faculty Senate President, and we're going to work on that, rewrite it a little bit, kind of keep the same premise as what we had in the past, but it would be open then to all university employees and kind of housed within the 2 senates. We're talking about making a subcommittee of the 2 senates, and everything would kind of go through there, and then that way we can kind of keep it going. So our plan is to start on that here, just working on all the nuts and bolts of it, and our goal is to have that up and running by June. So look for all of that to come, and looking forward to it, and an exciting program.
Me too. Well, we can,
Yes.
you could save a lot of money in this university if we put everybody that actually does the work, come in and say, we could do this better, faster, cheaper, and then reward people for those ideas. So I'm looking forward to the implementation and seeing what we get out of it.
And there will be monetary bonus if there's
Yep.
good savings. The past program was 10% up to $5,000, so we'll see if we can still do that and how we'll get all that administered.
So
And
it's not trivial. I mean,
Yes.
the potential, if you have really good ideas, pretty good potential.
so, yes, we do look forward to all of the suggestions coming in, and keep them coming. And I
From
think
anybody.
does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause, or?
I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
So thank you for
Thank
what
you,
you do
Sam.
every day. I mean, earlier we had a person talk about being here 40 years. There's nothing trivial about that, about giving your 40 years of your life to an organization, to a place. And that's a really big deal. We just celebrated the other day somebody in HCS with 45 years of service, which is just incredible. It really is. And so thank you every day for everything you do to make this place go, for our students, for what we do, for the mission. Everything we do, no matter where we are, impacts the mission of K-State. So I just want to say thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Yay.
And I want to thank the panel here for your time and out of your busy schedules to come and answer questions and be here in support and listen to the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Cindy.
That was good. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Sam, thank